I think it's safe to say that regional variants is easily one of the coolest and most popular features that Pokemon have ever introduced into their games. They were brought onto the scene in Sun and Moon back in Gen 7, and we were lucky enough to see their return in Gen 8. So with them kinda sorta being a normal thing in the Pokemon games now, it's possible we could see them in the next upcoming games as well. And it's very possible that those next upcoming games are going to be Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes. Now, the idea of regional variants in Diamond and Pearl remakes, so essentially Sinnoh Form Pokemon, is pretty wild and crazy, but it's something that could actually possibly happen if these games actually do get announced in the near future. And the idea of what kinds of Pokemon we could see get Sinnoh forms if all of this were to happen is a pretty exciting idea. And so I wanted to sit down and give my predictions for this hypothetical situation today, and in order to do that, I have brought on a good friend of mine and a really good fellow PokeTuber, Pokemon Insider. How's it going, man? Thanks for being here.
Hey, what's going on, man? Glad to be here, glad to be back. Awesome to be a part of this. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, in a nutshell, really quick before we get started, essentially the idea is that we are going to be predicting which Pokemon we think would get Sinnoh forms if we are indeed going to get Diamond and Pearl remakes and we do get Sinnoh forms in those games. I know it's a big hypothetical, speculative type of thing, but I feel pretty good about the Diamond and Pearl side of things, so I think, if for nothing else, this is going to be a really fun discussion. And I personally have got a lot of really cool picks that I'm going to be talking about, so I'm looking forward to it. Are you ready to go, Scott?
Oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. Let's go.
Alright, so when looking at the idea of just like what Pokemon would be likely to get a regional variant in Sinnoh, it's a bit tricky because if this were to happen, it would be the very first time that we got regional variants in a region from before regional variants were actually a thing. And I think they absolutely should do it, but it would definitely be some new territory if they actually go through with it. With that being said, though, I think one of the safest picks you could make in this category is a Kanto Pokemon of some kind, because obviously in Gen 7 with the Alola forms, they were only Kanto Pokemon, and then even in Gen 8 when they brought in other Pokemon from other generations that received regional variants, there were still a good chunk of Kanto Pokemon, simply because it's Gen 1 and it's Kanto. So for that reason, my very first pick is Arcanine and or Growlithe. I think Arcanine and Growlithe are very, very likely to get a regional form, that is, because they're not only pretty popular Pokemon, and therefore a regional variant of them would be really, really great and awesome, and popular as well, but also Growlithe and Arcanine's counterpart in Vulpix and Ninetales got an Alola form back in Sun and Moon, and it was even rumored that Growlithe and Arcanine were going to get one themselves, so I think it just makes all the sense in the world for them to get a regional variant at some point, and I think in Diamond and Pearl remakes would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, if they want it to be kind of a counterpart to the Alolan Vulpix and Ninetales, I mean, Sinnoh kind of works because it's also like a cold region. You could still do Ice-type Arcanine.
Right, and Ice-type is kind of the type that I personally have always pictured fitting best, because Arcanine is like, I mean, it's a mix of a bunch of different things, but it looks almost like husky-ish. It's very furry and fluffy, so I think Ice-type would work good. But also, just literally any other type would be amazing as well, because I remember thinking with Vulpix that it was just so cool that it was a fire type, and then all of a sudden it's the complete opposite with Ice. So I think practically any number of types they could add, and it would be really cool. So Arcanine is one that, I mean, at the very least, I think it's decently likely just because it's Kanto, but amongst the Kanto Pokemon that are, like, still up for grabs, I think it's also, like, higher on the list than others.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's super popular, man. I feel like it's if we were to get more regional forms, that one, it might even be a given, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to go like just say like, yes, this is definitely happening, because what we're talking about is so speculative to begin with. But yeah, it was the first one I thought about, so I had to mention it right off the bat. Moving on to my next pick, it's another Kanto Pokemon, and I promise these are not all going to be Kanto Pokemon. This is yeah, I gotta be realistic here. However, I do think this is an interesting pick, even though it might be a little more predictable in the sense that it's a Kanto Pokemon. And that pick would be Meowth. And the reason why I say Meowth is because if it got an Alola form and a Galar form, like, we didn't think that would be possible ever for a Pokemon to have 2 regional variants. So if they've already got 2, then why not just like make it a thing, like make it a thing that's like a trend, and just give it a regional variant in every region? Like, go.
Yeah, no, I saw that coming. As soon as you said Meowth, I'm like, yeah, it's got both already. Like, it's got Alola, it's got Galar. Why not Sinnoh if they're gonna do Sinnoh too?
Yeah, right. And the thing that just kind of makes me... The reason why I put this on the list in the first place is because it was, like I said, it was such a shock to see Meowth get another regional variant, and it kind of almost wouldn't really make sense if Meowth was like... It got 2 regional forms, but then like the other regions, it was like its normal self. That would almost seem weird at this point, just because there's now sort of a... I know it's only 2 forms at this point, but it's sort of a established trend that Meowth is like very adaptable now. And I also think that it would be really, really good for Meowth as a Pokemon, because obviously it's one of the super, super iconic Kanto Pokemon, but it doesn't really rank up there in terms of just flat out coolness with like Pikachu and Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander, because it's just like a 2-stage normal type cat Pokemon. It's pretty basic as far as the games go. So if you were to give it some cool thing, like it adapts to its environment and has a different regional variant in every region, that would be like the exact kind of thing that Meowth could use to sort of like gain some actual legit attention and popularity in the games to go along with its like general iconicness in the series as a whole. Because for as iconic as it is, I don't feel like it's nearly like cool enough per se, because it's just a normal type cat Pokemon. So I think this could help it in that respect a lot.
Yeah, the only issue I would have with that is, since it already did get a new form in Gen 8, if Sinnoh remakes are still Gen 8, is this setting a new precedent? Like, can Pokemon still get like in multiple forms in the same generation? That would be interesting.
That's true. That's a very good point that I did not think of. However, I don't necessarily think that would make it off the table, though, because we've seen a lot of things like recently in Gen 7 with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we saw new Pokemon introduced in like the enhanced game, which we never thought would happen. And we never thought we'd get like regional variants for legendaries, for instance, or new or like legendaries that evolve. Like, these are rules that have all been broken super recently in terms of Pokemon's just like how it goes about doing its thing. Yeah. So
yeah, they love throwing us like a new like rule, like breaking patterns that they've done. They love breaking that. So, yeah.
So while that is a very good point, I think definitely there's like it's still very much possible. Moving on though, another element in terms of picking what Sinnoh could see in terms of regional variants is the geography side of it. Obviously, the whole point of regional variants is that it's Pokemon adapting to their environments because they're far away from their native region and they've got to do what they can to survive in this new setting. And so it's very important, I think, to look at regions that are far away from Sinnoh. Case in point, basically all of the non-Japanese regions, so you've got Unova, Kalos, Alola, and Galar. I think we would definitely see at least a couple of Pokemon from any of those 4 generations as Sinnoh forms, because not only have we not seen those Pokemon in Sinnoh before because they came after the Sinnoh games, but also it just makes all the sense in the world from the geography standpoint. And so the first Pokemon that I have to talk about in this category is Rockruff. And I say Rockruff because it's an Alola Pokemon, so it's from a super tropical place, so it would make a lot of sense for it to get a Sinnoh form in Sinnoh because it's a completely different climate. I also think it makes a lot of sense because Rockruff is a pretty popular Pokemon that has a lot of appeal to it, and it seems like these are the kinds of Pokemon that tend to get regional variants. You've got the Marowaks of the world, you've got the Vulpixes of the world, you've got the Raichus of the world. So I think Rockruff is a really good candidate from that perspective, that it has the popularity and it's also from a much different region in Alola.
Yeah, I'd love to see some newer, like, Gen 6, 7, 8 Pokemon, even Gen 5 get those forms. I think Rockruff would definitely be a good pick, because, like you said, it is really popular, so...
Yeah. And it could even, like, because we now have regional evolutions as well, and Rockruff is all about its different forms when it evolves into Lycanroc, you could even have it evolve into, like, a completely separate version of Lycanroc and sort of give it an extra form. Not that it really needs one, but, like, that's another thing that they could do. However, I will say there is a bit of a caveat, and that is that Rockruff is the only Gen 7 Pokemon I have on this list, simply because the Gen 7 Pokemon I also feel like kind of have not been around that long, and so I think Game Freak is going to want to let them be around a little longer before they do anything in terms of changing their forms and things like that. So while I do think it's possible, that's why I put it there, it would basically, Rockruff would essentially be the only one that I could see getting that treatment because it's still such a new Pokemon and Alola's still such a new region.
Yeah, and if they were to stay true to, like, the Gen 4, like, where Pokemon are found and stuff, like, they probably have to add it in the post-game or, like, kind of throw it in somewhere.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually going to be a super interesting thing, too, because with so many new Pokemon, 4 generations worth that we've never seen in Sinnoh, I think it could honestly go both ways. They could kind of save it for the post-game, or they could just inject it into the world and just sort of just salt and pepper all these new Pokemon throughout the region if they wanted, like we've seen in other more recent generations. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Speaking of more tropical variety type areas, though, another really strong candidate in terms of a region that I could see having Pokemon that would become Sinnoh forms is Hoenn. And I know we've seen Hoenn Pokemon in Sinnoh before, but the whole point of a remake is that it kind of changes some things up, so I don't think that would be out of the realm of possibility. And the other strong reason I say Hoenn is because Hoenn is just such a tropical place like Alola, and so I think it makes, once again, from an environmental standpoint, there really isn't a better candidate than, like, Hoenn and Alola, in my opinion. And so because of that, I actually I have a couple of Hoenn Pokemon, and the first one I want to talk about is Flygon. And I say Flygon, you probably all know the answer because Flygon was going to get a Mega Form back in X and Y. It's been a super popular Pokemon for a while, and then its Mega Form got cut, and it really hasn't seen any special treatment since then. It didn't get a Gigantamax form either. It made the game, it made Sword and Shield at least, but it did not get any special form, and so I think because that is a story that is so out in the open, like it was stated in a public interview, it wasn't found out via a leak or anything, I think it's finally time to give Flygon the love it deserves and give it that spotlight and give it an alternate form, and I think a regional variant would be a really cool way to do that.
Oh yeah, I agree. I was super sad when Flygon got the axe with its Mega, and I think Sinnoh would be a really interesting place to have Flygon, especially with a new form, because it would probably end up being either an ice type or, I mean, that's just my go-to pretty much all the time, but like, yeah, it could have so many options.
Yeah.
As far as a new form.
Yeah, ice is definitely an easy one to go for with Sinnoh, and I think I think if these forms were to happen, they would definitely be a lot. I mean, at least a good chunk of them would be ice type, but there's so many other ways you could go with it as well. We're looking at ground dragon right now, so obviously it could possibly get a bug type and be the bug dragon type that we all have wanted. Maybe it sort of embraces its bugginess a little more in Sinnoh for some reason, or I mean, you could do literally anything. That's the joy of regional variants. So I just think Flygon needs to get that love that it got, that it was robbed of, and I think now, especially because if the remakes were to come out this year, it would be the 25th anniversary. It would kind of be a nice time to sort of bring that full circle and give the fans what they want.
Yeah, I could see even like, I don't remember if Trapinch and Flygon are naturally found in Sinnoh. I don't think they are. Commenters are probably going to correct me on this, but if it's not, it could definitely make its way into Mount Cornet. I think that would be a great place to find it, or like somewhere in that outer area with the snow up near Snow Point City. Those would be some good places to find like a Sinnoh Trapinch or Vibrava.
Right, exactly. Okay, and then getting into our next pick, which is actually going to be the final pick of this first part of the podcast, but the second part will continue over on the UCast Studios gaming channel, so be sure to check that out after we're done here. And the final pick is yet another Hoenn Pokemon for reasons I already stated. Just makes a lot of sense, and the Pokemon I have in mind is Torkoal. Now, Torkoal kind of epitomizes Hoenn in a lot of ways, which is why I picked it. It's a tortoise Pokemon, but it's a fire type, which to me always had a more tropical kind of flair to it, which I thought matched Hoenn as sort of a region and its vibe really well. And it's also kind of a Pokemon that represents Hoenn really well too, because we see Ash catch a Torkoal in the anime, and it's kind of just one of those Pokemon that, at least in my view, that you think of when you think of Hoenn. So similar to Arcanine or Rockruff, I think Torkoal is kind of in that sort of vein for Hoenn. And because it is a fire type and we are going to a very cold place in Sinnoh, or we would be for this game, I think it's another really good candidate for a regional variant, because it's already got more of an exotic type in its fire type, so you could obviously give it an ice type. As we've said, ice would fit for any Pokemon in Sinnoh, but you could also make it a rock type Pokemon. You could make it a little more craggy. You could make it a water type and make it more like a traditional turtle. So I think Torkoal would be another really good pick as a regional variant.
An interesting concept that I've immediately thought about with Torkoal is giving it, like, keeping the fire type but also giving it the water type, kind of playing on a sauna. I know that's not that would be more traditional for like the Scandinavian countries, but I mean, Sinnoh kind of has that vibe of, especially Snow Point City, where you could put a bathhouse somewhere up there.
Yeah, well, that is actually a great idea, because I know Torkoal is like it has the word coal in its name, so it's like that's kind of the angle it's pushing. But we see even in its art that it's like blowing steam out of its body, if I'm not mistaken. So if you just added a water type on there, that would give us like, it would be only the second fire water type ever, but it would be one that we could use, because Volcanion is a mythical, and so it would,
right, yeah.
And like, that's a type that a lot of people wanted for a long time, so I think that's a fantastic idea personally.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, man.
Yeah, that would be a great pick. And speaking of picks, we've got a lot more to discuss, but we're going to be doing that over on the UCast Studios gaming channel, where I also have these podcasts. That is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know if you like this new format. This is the second time I've done this on the channel, and I'm hoping it turns out good and you like it. So let me know, leave a like, comment, all that good stuff. Also, be sure to go check out Scott on his channel, Pokemon Insider. He does a great job with videos, and he's been posting pretty frequently recently, and he's got some great stuff that I know you guys will enjoy. So with that being said, I will see you guys over for the second part over on the podcast channel, and until then, as always, I love you all, and I will smell you guys later.